Hello, I'm George. This is GLLr Cars. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're talking Mercedes Benz E-Class. This Mercedes Benz E-Class is the E350 2016 model, and this is part of the GLLr Cars fleet. This car right here it had for a couple of years, and it does have a good combination of luxury and sports capabilities. Believe it or not, you wouldn't think of it if you think Mercedes Benz, but this is the E350 Sport, so it does have some of those features that I get a chance to share with you and talk about. First, let's take a look at the overall design of the vehicle. One of the things that I like, and the 3-point star, which is one of the most recognizable logos of any car maker, what they did is they put the sensors in the very front of the grille, and some of them have 3-point star raised up above the hood. This one right here, what they did with these, and there's a few others that they're doing it now, where they make that 3-point star very visible, and they have a good way of hiding it, so it has not just the sensors for the collision controls, proximity controls. It also has a camera right beneath it. If you look right here, it's got the camera right there under that sensor, and it's got sensors basically all around the vehicle. It has the proximity sensors right here and here, so when you have to park nearby, you'll have that way of being a little bit more precise when you're trying to look for a place to park, having these not so much as what you would see in a sports car, where these would be made out of a plastic material. This is a somewhat metallic material that they put to make it look more aggressive, as well as the lights, where it has the typical Mercedes-Benz curve with the lights on the edge extruding out, as well as the turn signals that come across right there on the bottom. The other thing that I like is that it does have somewhat of a shoulder, so if you look, it's got these lines that come out here right above what these door handles are, and they basically run the length of the vehicle, as well as on the bottom, where it starts a little bit low nearby the bottom of the front tire, and it goes up to about the middle of the rear tire. So they do have these really nice lines that curve to make it look somewhat sportier. These are the standard rims that come in that model, and then the exhaust tips, which are made a little bit more aggressive by having that metallic liner, that metallic rim that goes around it. In the back, it does, I wish it had more of a rear hood that would raise up a little bit, maybe with a little bit of a wing, but you may not see that until you get more into the AMG products. The other thing that I like, if you look over in the hood, is an all glass, on the roof rather, is an all glass roof. So if you need to have turned it into a moon roof, it is a moon roof, but it just has a liner that covers it from the inside. All it does is slides back, and since it's all glass, you get to see it that way, but it does retract in terms of a moon roof. Getting inside, like many other vehicles, the key is more of a transponder key, so you can use it to open the keys that way, or you can just use it to get your hand inside the door handle to open, or press in this corner of the door handle to close and lock. It does have a Mercedes-Benz logo, or not logo, rather the name, that does light up at night, and all of the door controls on the Mercedes Benz E-Class, they're placed them on the door. It's got many different motions, including headrest control, back control, so it's up, down, forward, tilt, as well as the bottom part, and then it's got 3 memory controls. your door controls, your window controls, and these are the mirror controls that you have. Down here at the very bottom is the hood control. Your parking brake control is a mechanical parking brake, so it's press to park, and then to release you pull on this lever. Your controls for the lights, I usually just keep them on automatic, and you can use the fog lights as well. If you look at the, just turn it on so you have an idea what. One of the things that you'll see is that the vehicle has a very quiet start. Not much to say about the sound. These are not meant to be vehicles that will be very loud. So this is what I was talking about in terms of the roof. If you look at the controls for the moonroof, just press and opens. Since it's already glass, it's just one big piece of glass to look in there. If you look at the design of the dash and the controls, it does use a wood trim, or it's rather faux wood, I believe, but it does make it appeal. And the I guess the combination of some of the more classic feels, like the clock, which even though it is an analog clock, it does have a digital control to adjust it. The shortcut controls and buttons for things like navigation, radio, telephone, media, etc. And then your controls for temperature is a combination between your digital readouts and then mechanical levers and knobs to make those adjustments. And I think that they do a nice blend of those different ways of looking at your controls and using your controls. If you look at the instrument cluster, it is yet again another example of the combination of some of the more analog look and feels with digital. So if you look at the speedometer in the middle, it has the analog readout, but then you have a readout that is digital that shows your speed, but you get to change this to whether it is different trip controls and views that you get to have. You get a chance to change it between navigational view, audio controls, controls. You get to see settings and driving controls for assistant graphics, how far or close away you are from the car in front. So there are a number of digital controls that one gets to navigate through and set up for the center screen that lives inside the speedometer. And the same can also be said about the various LED lights that live inside the tachometer or the gauges for both temperature and gas. In terms of storage spaces, you have your cup holders, which are standard cup holders. They're very basic. You push this cover a little bit more. You have the old-fashioned ashtray and a 12-volt outlet as well. If you look at some of the storage spaces, you got your typical glove compartment. You got the center console here, and it operates by pulling up on this lever. Again, another mechanical control. Moving on down, there is a control wheel that is the one that is used to operate the infotainment system. The infotainment system is not a touchscreen, so this wheel is used for moving up and down, going back, favorites, clearing, etc. You can turn your infotainment system from here as well. And over here is the sports and eco mode. The sports and eco mode are the two different driving modes that the vehicle has. So by default, it does drive on eco mode, and it even has the automatic start stop. And if you put it into sports mode, it does disable that function. If you look at the creature comforts, this car has what they call the leatherette interior, which is a faux leather, but is very durable. And if you look at this car for a few years of usage, there's no wrinkles on any of the leather, despite the fact that these are the areas that people sit on the most. So I am pleased with that. I know that if you look at a more thinner, softer leather, that would be a material that would look better, but it wouldn't be as durable. Moving on to the back, it is very spacious considering the size of this car is the mid-size of the Mercedes Benz lineup. This E-Class, being shorter, has a lot more legroom. If you look at, I'm sitting behind myself and I have a good 6 inches of space and knee space. And look at my headroom, it's like another 4 inches, and this is knowing that it has this double sunroof above where it is basically a glass roof. So I know that that uses up some space, and it is very comfortable. It is meant to be functional, comfortable, elegant, without trying to do too much, and I like that about the Mercedes Benz. The center of the back seat has the what I do like, which is a center armrest that has the ability to have cup holders in it. However, the way that they do that is they go ahead and have this retractable cup holders that pop up like that. And again, maybe a little bit over-engineered, but it does get the job done. Then to put the cup holders away, you just flip them back up into this armrest area. You still have a little storage area over here, and then you flip it down and you can still use it as an armrest. So very fancy, gets the job done. One other thing to point out, it does have right there in the center a little area here where you get to put little pieces of paper. You can access the trunk from that space as well. And then the last few things to point out in the back, besides the hooks on the sides and the back and in the front, it does have the additional dome lights in the back, which are individualized to be set up on either the rear passenger on the right or the rear passenger and left. Seatbelt height is adjustable for the passengers in the front. One feature I like to talk about, and this gets a few folks a little bit surprised, is when you put your seatbelt on and you click it, the minute that you click your seatbelt on, I don't know if the camera was able to get that, but the seatbelt tucks on you until it has a snug feel around you. So it is a feature that could be disabled, but nonetheless it's a nice feature to make sure that there is no slack on your seatbelt. The shifter on the Mercedes Benz E-Class, it is a paddle shifter that is somewhat manual feeling, but it really is electronic. So if I flip on the lever will move from neutral to parking to drive. You press the button in for park, you move it up. For reverse, you move it down for neutral and move it down again for drive. But again, it's the type that moves and stays in the same position depending on what you're trying to do. So again, a combination of mechanical and electronic. First impressions in terms of the driving dynamics is the steering. The first thing I feel is a very good connection between the road, the tires in the front, the steering, and the steering wheel. The feel and control of the steering wheel is unlike any other car that I've driven, and it's not something to be taken lightly, because there's a lot of cars that have good steering, and the steering of this E-Class is quite connected. In terms of the acceleration, it's got 302 horsepower, and just like most other German cars, if you don't punch it, it is a well-behaved car. It is a pretty smooth driving vehicle. On the other hand, if you do punch it, it will let you know that that power is there on tap. Something that I like is the turn radius. I didn't realize this until I had read about it, but until I drove it, I could tell that I can make a turn on 2 lanes out of a 3-lane highway. And normally when I park a car in the garage and I have other cars in the driveway, and my driveway has a 90-degree turn to get inside the garage, it does require sometimes that I back and pull forward a little bit just to get it adjusted and get the vehicle out. However, in the case of this car, you can do it all that in one swoop simply because of that turning radius. The feel of the steering wheel and the power. So the power first. It punches. When you punch it, it will punch you back. So it has 302 horsepower, and the push is not immediate when you press the pedal, but the push does happen after you press it with a little bit more authority. This car does a good job of blending the electronics and mechanical features in such a way where you have electronic information yet mechanical feels to some of the control. Case in point is the temperature controls are an electronic screen that shows the fan speed, the temperature, yet the buttons are more like mechanical levers that you flip up to choose the various fan speeds or the various temperature controls on either their left or the front passenger seats. After talking about the driving dynamics, the look and feel, the driving experience, it is a compromise of sorts in many different ways in terms of the materials that they use to make it look luxurious yet not become something that will break the bank, in terms of the engineering that goes to put all of the electronic features and a combination of that with the mechanical features so you have somewhat of a feel to it. The most important of those is basically the steering and the accelerating. When you're driving and you feel the road and you can punch it and it'll take you where you need to be, that's the most pleasurable part of the vehicle. Everything else for me comes second. For that alone, I recommend this vehicle. I wouldn't own it if I didn't. If I start thinking about who would be the folks that would own or like to drive a car like this, I can think of many. I can think of folks who own a family and the kids are not as young. Maybe if they were young, they had an SUV. Now they're a little bit older, they can appreciate a sedan such as this. This is the car for you. If you are a professional, whether or not you have a family and now you have, there needs to have a little bit more space. If you need to go into meetings and drive folks, this is the car for you. If you are a person that likes cars and appreciates cars of all different types, and you want to get into a vehicle that is a little more luxurious than your typical car, then this is also the car for you. Whether or not you think that it is for you or it isn't, I highly recommend you get a chance to drive it, you get a chance to experience it, and if you believe that that's a car that you would like to own, I can speak from experience as being an owner of this car. This is also the car for you. My name is George, this is GLLr Cars, and as always, drive safe.